So in this video, I'm going to show you how to click an element. It's not the typical click that you may be thinking of. We're going to learn how to click an element given an offset. In other words, we're going to click a certain area of the element. You may be still wondering, why would you want to do this? Why would you care where the click happens? You just want to click an element. You don't care where it happens. And I'm going to send a click operation or a click command to this element. And we're going to see what happens to this when we say click. This number right here doesn't necessarily represent the number of pixels. Just remember that this is just a default value from 0 to 100. Welcome to this video series, where we explore the world of WebdriverIO to help you succeed in your test automation career. Hello, my name is Marco Cruz, and I'm the founder of AutomateNow, and I'm excited to team up with Lambda Test to bring you these awesome videos. My background is in computer engineering, and I have over a decade in software testing experience. You can learn more about my company by heading over to AutomateNow.io, and you can also find us on YouTube by searching AutomateNow. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to click an element. It's not the typical click that you may be thinking of. We're going to learn how to click an element given an offset. In other words, we're going to click a certain area of the element. Let's dive in. So how does clicking work in WebdriverIO? When we tell WebdriverIO to click an element, what happens is that it's going to click the middle of the element. That's what this circle right here, this dot in the middle of this element represents. Just imagine that this rectangle right here, it's the element, and the middle section is where the click happens. So you say element.click, and it's going to click exactly in the middle of the element. All right, that area is known as the 0,0 location. Okay, that stands for the X and Y coordinates. All right, so it used to be that clicking would happen here at the top left corner, but things have changed over time, and now the clicking happens right at the middle of the element. And now let's have a look at a hypothetical example. Let's just say that this element right here is 100 pixels across. Okay, that's the width of the element, 100 pixels. So from the left side, right, from the left boundary to the middle of the element, that would be 50 pixels. And then from the middle to the right boundary, that would be another 50 pixels. Okay, so you have 50 pixels to the left and 50 pixels to the right of the center section of the element. Now, this left side over here, it's known as the negative side. Okay, so when we tell WebdriverIO that we want to click the left side of the element, we're going to be passing in a negative value, right? And you're going to see this example, an example here in a second. And then when we want to click to the right of the center of the element, we pass a positive value. Now, let's say, for example, that you want to click to the right of the center. Okay, so in that case, the first value right here represents the x-axis. In other words, in which direction you want to move from side to side. Okay, and then the other value, this value over here represents the y-axis, or in other words, where you want to go up or down from the center of the element. So in this case, let's just look at this dot right here, this red dot. We have moved 25 pixels from the center. All right, so this is what the 25 represents right here. It's going to go 25 pixels from the center, and then it's going to click right there. All right, we're not going up or down. All right, that's why this element right here, or this value, is staying at 0 for the y-axis. Now, if you want to click to the left of the center, then we pass a negative value. So it's going to look something like this. We'll say negative 25, 0. And that's just saying we're going to go 25 pixels to the left, okay, starting from the center. Let us now have a look at the y-axis. So the same element, now we're looking at this height. Let's just assume that this is 30 pixels, all right? That would mean that if we start from the center, we have 15 pixels going up, and then 15 pixels going down. All right, and again, the middle section, or the middle point, is 0,0. Now, this top section, if you want to go up from the middle, we need to pass in a negative value. Okay, so that's why we say negative 15 in this case right now, right here. Okay, if we want to go down, we pass a positive value, right? So in this scenario, we have 15 pixels going in the negative direction, 15 pixels going in the positive direction. Now, for an example of this, let's just say that we said 0,-7. Okay, that means we're going to stay, we're not going to go anywhere from side to side. That's why the x is 0, but the y is negative 7. That means we're going to go up because we're passing a negative value. Okay, so we're going to land about halfway between the middle and the upper boundary, right? Now, if we want to go down from the middle, then we pass a positive value, and that's going to land us somewhere in the middle as well, between the middle point and the bottom boundary. What if you wanted to click somewhere over here in this direction? Okay, so in that case, we need to move both the X and the Y axis. Let's see what that's going to look like. So we have here 25,7. What just happened here? Well, 25 is the X value. We start from 0 here, 0,0. So we went 25 pixels to the right, starting from the center. So we went in this direction. Then we're passing a positive value for the Y axis. That means we went down, okay, about 7 pixels, and that would land us somewhere in this direction. And now that you have a better understanding of how clicking works in WebdriverIO, you may be still wondering, why would you want to do this? Why would you care where the click happens? You just want to click an element, you don't care where it happens. Well, I would say that 99% of the time, you really don't care where the clicking is going to occur. But there are some scenarios in which you do care, or you would want to have more control and more precision on where you want to click. Let me show you an example of that. And to illustrate my point, we're going to be using this website, which is the Selenium playground from Lambda Test. Okay, they have a page here called Slider Demo, and it has a bunch of different sliders on here. We're going to use this first slider for the example in this video. All right, look at this, what happens right here. So if I click and hold this, I can move it around, right? And as I'm moving this, notice that this value is changing, right? It has a default value of 5. This is where it began over here, but you can move it around. Another option is to click, right? You can click anywhere on this element. For example, I can click over here and notice that it moved to 97. I can click back over here and it moves to 1. And I'm going to demonstrate how clicking works by using this slider. I'm going to show you how to click the center of the element, clicking to the right of it, clicking to the left of it, or clicking by a certain percentage of the total width of the element. So let's go to the code for this example. So I went ahead and started with some code here. I just created a new spec file called offsetclick.spec.js. And in there, I've created this test, which is just going to click an element by a given offset. The first thing that we're going to do is to navigate to that website that has the sliders in it. So this is the URL for that. Next, we need to locate the element that we want to interact with. So let's go back to the website for a moment. And here we have the element that we want to work with, right? Right now, there's different elements, different sliders on here. So let's inspect this first one. And we can see here that this is an input, right? And there's different attributes that we can use right here. I'm leaning to using this value here where the value is 5. That's the default value for that element. If I look at another one, for example, that one right there, that one has a default value of 20. So we're going to use the value to locate this element. Okay. So let's go back to the code. And here we're going to create a constant. Let's call it slider. And then we're going to say await, right? And then we're going to say star, $sign rather. And then we're going to say it's going to be an input and then brackets where the value is equal to 5. All right. That's the one that we're interested in, right? That's going to help us locate that element. Once we have that, the first thing that I want to do is to click the element to show you guys what happens when you just say click, right? Let me go back over here. Let me close this, and I'm going to refresh this page. So when we land on this page initially, notice that the value for this is 5, right? So this is the default value for it. And I'm going to send a click operation or a click command to this element, and we're going to see what happens to this when we say click. All right, so let's go back. And now we're going to go down here. We're going to say await, and we're going to say slider dot click. We're not going to pass any parameters to it. All right, that's all we're going to do. And since we want to see the actual click taking place, I want to use a pause over here. I'm going to say await, then browser pause. We're going to pause for, let's wait for 3 seconds right now. All right, so let me go ahead and run this test to show you guys what this is going to look like. So first, I'm going to save everything here, bring up the terminal, and run this test. I have the test running on Lambda test. It should be coming up here shortly. So once it kicks on, I'm going to show it to you guys. And there it is, click by offset. Let's go ahead and open this up. And here we can see what is going on, right? So the test has finished execution. Now I'm just going to wait for the video to load so I can replay the video and show you guys what the click did. All right, so the video is finished. So let me go ahead and expand it, make it larger. I'm going to click play right here. And notice that it goes to the website. This is the default value right now, 5. Now we're sending the click operation. And notice what happens. It clicked the center of the element. And the value there, it says 50. So let's go back for a moment here so you guys can see what happens. There. So when we click on the element, notice what happens. It clicked the center of the element. We didn't tell it to go to the left or to the right. We just said click, right? So this proves to us that when we say click, it's clicking the middle of the element. So let me go ahead and close this up and go back to the code. All right, so next I want to go ahead and click to the right of the element. So starting from the middle, I want to click to the right of it. So I'm going to say await, I'm going to say slider dot click. And this time I do want to pass in some parameters. Okay, so here I'm going to use braces, and then we can say X and then colon, and then how many pixels do we want to go to the right? Remember, when we want to go to the right, we need to pass in a positive value. So here we can say, for example, let's say 100 pixels to the right. All right, so that's what we're going to do there. And by the way, we don't need the X axis or the X coordinate. I can actually remove this. Okay. It is assumed that you're not going to be going up or down. So we're going to leave it like that. Just going to pass in the X. We just want to move horizontally. We're not moving up or down. All right. So I'm also going to use another wait right here so that we can see what happens. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. And this time the test should first, land on the page. It's going to click and it's going to show the middle of the element. And then we're going to click somewhere to the right, 100 pixels to the right. So let's go ahead and see that in action. I have the test running now, so let me go back over here and let's go back to the builds. And if we click this, we can see that the test is running right now. And here we're going to see what's happening. All right, the test is done. So let me go ahead and open this up. I'm going to click play and we're going to see that it's going to navigate to the website. Right there is at 5. We should now see 50, and then it's going to go to the right 50 pixels. So let's see what happens. So it does go to the right. Notice that we were somewhere in the middle, right? We were at the middle actually. And then we went 100 pixels to the right, and that brought us to a value of 71, right? This number right here doesn't necessarily represent the number of pixels. Just remember that this is just a default value from 0 to 100, okay? So just ignore this. What we're doing is like starting from the middle, and then we're saying we want to go 100 pixels to the right from the middle, okay? So that's where we're landing over here. All right, so how about we go to the left, right? Starting from the middle, we want to go to the left 100 pixels. So let's see how we're going to do that. That should be pretty straightforward, right? We're going to go back over here, and I'm going to grab this code. I'm going to copy this, and then we're going to paste it over here. And this time I'm going to add a negative value over here. So negative 100, because I want to go starting from the middle, I want to go left. Okay, so I need to pass in a negative value. And again, I'm going to put a wait right here. And I'm going to rerun this test to show you guys what happens. The test is done running, so let me go ahead and open it up. We can see here, the starting from the middle, then it's going to go to the right, and then it's going to go to the left. And there we see it right there. Okay, so we went 100 pixels starting from the center. We went 100 pixels to the left. In the last examples that I showed you guys, we were using an exact amount of pixels that we wanted to click by. All right, so we said we wanted to go 100 pixels from the center in either direction, or we went to the right first and then we went to the left. So that assumes that we have at least 100 pixels, right? We don't know exactly how many pixels there are to the right or to the left because we don't know the actual width of the element. So whenever possible, you should try to first get the width of the element so that you know how many pixels you're working with. Otherwise, you're not guaranteed that you're going to be able to click on the elements. Let's say, for example, that you had the same element right here that is 100 pixels across. And you said, I want to click 200 pixels to the right of the center, right? That's not going to work because you're going outside of the element, all right? So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing this type of operations. The next examples that I'm going to show you is how to get the actual width of the elements so that you know where you're starting from or how many pixels you have to work with. All right, so let's have a look at that. We're going to basically use a special method that's going to return the width of the element. It also returns the height, but in this case, we're only working with the width. We want to click on that slider, and all we care about is the width of the element. All right, so let's go ahead and comment this code out right here, and we're going to get the size of the element. So here I'm going to create a constant. I'm going to call it size. It's equal to await slider that get size. Okay, so this method right here is going to return two values for us. It's going to tell us how wide the element is, or the width of the element, and the height of the element. Okay, so we also want to print that information out just to show you guys what it's going to look like. So we're going to say here that the width, let me put some symbols here so it make it easier to find later. I'm going to say that the width is equal to, and then we're going to say size dot, and then we'll say width. Okay, so because this value of size is going to return, it's going to have two values in it. We want to get the width of the element. All right, so we're also going to duplicate this line, and we're going to get the height of the element. Okay, so here we're going to say height, and we're going to say over here height as well. All right, so let's go ahead and see what this is going to print out. All right, so the test is done executing, and here we can find the information that we wanted to print out. So we can see that the width of this element is 500 pixels. So we have 500 pixels to work with. So if we start from the center, we have 250 pixels in either direction. And then we have 15 pixels in total height. Okay, so again, we don't care too much about this one right now. Given the scenario that we're working with, we only care about the width. Now, let's say that we want to click to the right side of the element using the width as a reference. Let me show you an example of that. Okay, so let me go ahead and comment this out right here. And next, what I want to do is to click by a given offset using the width of the element. So let me create a constant here. I'm going to call this one right offset. Okay, and then I'm going to say is equal to, and I'm going to use the math library in this case. I'm going to say math.floor. Okay, and this is going to ensure that we get an integer value to work with, because we need an integer whenever we want to send the click operation. We need to give it an exact integer value. And here we're going to get the width. Okay, so we're going to say size dot width, and then we're going to multiply this by 0.25. And what I'm doing here is getting the total width of the element and multiplying that by 0.25 to get 25% of that. So in other words, we have 500 pixels, which is the width of the element, and we're getting 25% of that. And that's going to result in 125 pixels. And what I'm trying to do here is to get an x coordinate. In other words, an x value, and how many pixels do we want to go to the right or to the left. I'm going to use this value later. So let me just get this right now. And then we're going to say over here, await slider dot click. And we're going to passing that value, okay, the right offset, right? So essentially we're doing the same thing as we were doing up here, right? Where we're passing the x coordinate. We're doing it again here, but in this time we know exactly how many pixels based on the width of the element. So it's going to go ahead and click 125 pixels from the center of the element. So it's going to go 125 pixels to the right and then do the click operation. Let me go ahead and copy this pause right here, and we're going to add it here so that we can see that it's going to do exactly what we want it to. So let me go ahead and save this and rerun this test. And here I have the test running right now. All right, let me go ahead and make this larger and hit play. All right, so right there, it's right at the default value of 5. Then we wanted to go, let me pause it now. So we wanted to go 125 pixels from the center, right? So that's exactly what we're seeing right here. The same exact behavior that we wanted to see in this case, just like we did earlier, right? When we clicked 100 pixels to the right, right now we're clicking 125 pixels to the right, starting from the center. How about we click to the left of the center? So let's go back over here, and that's going to be pretty similar, right? Let me go ahead and copy this right here. And actually, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to create a new constant. I'm going to say constant left offset. And again, I'm going to use the math.floor to get a whole value or an integer value. And we're going to get the width of the element. And then this time I'm using a -125. I could put the negative right there, or we could also put it out here, and it's going to be the same thing. And once we get that, we're now going to be going 125 pixels to the left. Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this right here. And then we're going to paste it down here. And this time, instead of the right offset, we're going to say left offset. Okay, left offset. So I'm going to rerun this test. And first, we're going to see that it's going to click 125 pixels to the right. And then it's going to go ahead and click 125 pixels to the left. All right, I have the test running now. So let's go back to Lambda test. And we should see it pop up here in any minute. And there we have it. We can see here what's going on, right? The page just loaded. It's going to click to the right. And then it's going to click to the left, just as we expected. And hopefully you were able to understand how clicking works in WebdriverIO. As you can see, it's not as simple as we thought. You know, when we say click, we just don't really think about it. We don't really worry too much about where we want to click. But now we know that whenever we say click, it clicks the center of the element. And if we want to go in a certain direction, then we need to specify an X and Y coordinates. In this example, only use the X coordinate really to go left or right. But if you can think of other examples, you know, where you may want to click above the center or below the center, there are some applications for that as well. So I hope you have fun learning, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of the video. Check out any of the links on the screen to get connected with the Lambda test community, get certified, and get access to the code that you saw today. See you in the next video.